With over $40 billion in foreign debt, enough to buy 40 million cars, and a record of 7.8% economic shrinkage last year, Sri Lanka is in the worst economic crisis it has seen in 7 decades. A country where the currency falls faster than a meteor shower, a paradise island now facing its worst nightmare. From tropical beaches to protesting mobs and blackouts. Today, we uncover the perfect storm behind Sri Lanka's meltdown. But how did this tropical haven end up in such a financial whirlwind? Stay tuned as we unravel the tangled threads of Sri Lanka's economic crisis. So, imagine Sri Lanka as a household, ready to renovate and expand. They borrowed money thinking they become the Joanna Gaines of nations, but the returns, well, they're more like a failed DIY project. They're in debt up to their ears, $40 billion worth. It's like giving your house a fancy makeover and realizing you can't pay the decorator. Post-Civil War, they were like, let's rebuild and make things awesome. But here's the twist. They now owe over $40 billion. It's like splurging on a luxury makeover, but then realizing you can't keep up with the payments. And guess what? China plays the role of the tough landlord, taking a strategic port on a 99-year lease. That's a whole new level of real estate drama. And the poverty rates. They're skyrocketing faster than your favorite YouTuber's subscriber count. Sri Lanka's poverty is projected to increase to 27.9% in 2023 from 25% in 2022, the World Bank said, as the country continues to suffer from the most extreme deployment of macroeconomic policy in the history of its central bank. More and more people in the country are having to choose between a meal and keeping the lights on. Tough choices all around. With families struggling to put food on the table, there's also the issue of sending their little ones to school. It's like being on a tight budget, but your shopping list keeps growing while your wallet's crying for help. Picture this, a triple threat hitting our young champs: learning loss, growling tummies, and challenges to their well-being. Thanks to the 1-2 punch of COVID-19 closures and the 2022 fuel shortages causing more shutdowns, a whole generation of kids have been sidelined from education for nearly 2 years. Sure, some schools have dusted off their welcome mats, but the kiddo head count hasn't bounced back to the good old pre-pandemic days. And here's the heart-wrenching twist. Skyrocketing food prices are gate-crashing the school attendance party. Kids are missing out on classes because of hunger pangs. Or worse, schools are telling parents, hold off, feed them first. It's like trying to ace a test on an empty stomach. Impossible, right? Sri Lanka's child nutrition progress is taking a nosedive. Nearly 43% of the little ones under 5 are grappling with undernutrition. That's like a soccer team playing with half their players on an empty field. In the low-income neighborhoods, it's not just about kids dropping out of school. It's a survival game. They're putting down their backpacks to pick up the economic slack for their struggling families. It's a tough call, but when your family's on the ropes, you do what you gotta do. Now let's talk healthcare, or lack thereof. Hospitals are like ghost towns, missing supplies, and surgeries are on pause. Essential drugs are as rare as finding a red wolf, and trust me, that's pretty darn rare. It's a health crisis so serious, even WebMD couldn't diagnose it. Now let's head to the kitchen. The Sri Lankan economy, that is. It's like a kitchen relying heavily on international groceries. Forget locally grown spices. They're importing everything like a master chef with Amazon Prime. In 2021, they shopped big, $17 billion worth, but the yard sale only fetched $15 billion. It's like buying designer clothes and then trying to sell them at a flea market. Fast forward to 2022, and it seems like the kitchen still got more going out than coming in. They shipped goods worth $1 billion, but brought in goods worth $3 billion. Talk about a lopsided grocery bill. As of October 2023, Sri Lanka's exports were valued at approximately $514.4 million monthly, according to the data from CEIC data. Meanwhile, imports decided to do some heavy lifting, valued at approximately $878.2 million monthly. It's like our exports hit a detour while imports flex their muscles at the gym. And what's on the shopping list? Oh, just some casual items like fuel, gold, steel products, fancy fabrics, and vehicles. But as commodity prices soared, it turned into a budget buster for Sri Lanka. Investors, well, they're not exactly lining up. It's like having a garage sale and everyone's driving by, giving you sympathetic looks but not stopping. So what's keeping the lights on? Tourism, taxes, gems, tea, textiles, and jobs overseas. But if you're spending more than you're making, you'll hit a snag. And for Sri Lanka, that snag's a whopping deficit. So, where does this leave Sri Lanka in 2023? People from professionals to laborers are jetting off to dodge high inflation, crazy taxes, and a scarcity of opportunities back home. It's like everyone's hopping on the escape rocket. Now our man Ranil Wickremesinghe got a hot potato, an unprecedented brain drain that's trickier than juggling flaming torches. Let's hope he's got some magic tricks and pull our talent back from the overseas adventure. It's a brainy challenge, and we're all ears to see how it unfolds. And the tourism fiasco? Oh boy, Sri Lanka hit the snooze button on diversification and went all in on tourism. It's like putting all your eggs in one basket and then someone accidentally bumps that basket off the kitchen counter. Post-Civil War, Sri Lanka was like a kid in a candy store with international loans, and they went straight for the shiny new toy, tourism. This critical sector of the Sri Lankan economy accounts for over 12% of GDP. Deadly terrorist attacks and then a pandemic, talk about a double whammy. Tourist arrivals, down they went, like a magician's disappearing act. This downturn affected not only hotels and travel agencies, but also the wider economy, as tourism is interconnected with other sectors like hospitality, transportation, and local businesses. The Russian intrusion in Ukraine, just when you thought 2022 had given its best drama, it added a bit more spice. Up to 30% of guests to Sri Lanka came from Russia, Ukraine, Poland, and Belarus. With the events in Ukraine, those figures are expected to drop faster than your phone when you see a snake. It's as if 2022 decided, let's keep the drama going, shall we? In 2023, tourism's on the upswing, with over 1.3 million globetrotters dropping by before the sleigh bells jingle in December. The tourist arrivals are a positive sign, but there is a need to attract high-spending tourists to generate more revenue for the economy. Because, like I earlier mentioned, there is a huge debt crisis that definitely needs to be paid so the country won't end up in square one, and by that, I mean a worse economic crisis. Sure, the country's strutting into an economic recovery phase, but it's like leveling up in a game. You hit one milestone, and there's a whole bunch of challenges waiting in the next level. And now, let's talk about corruption, the uninvited guest at the nation's party. It's munching away at the economic buffet like it's an all-you-can-steal feast. This isn't just about a few corrupt officials, it's about how this affects regular people. We're talking less money for hospitals, schools, roads, you name it. Corruption is everywhere, from everyday bribery as common as your morning coffee to the big leagues of nepotism and fund misappropriation. Now let's zoom in on the Rajapaksa family, how one family brought a nation to its knees. They had their hand in mega projects making less sense than pineapple on pizza, and that's saying something. Fast forward to power cuts, fuel shortages, and inflation going through the roof. The public's patience wore thinner than a dump basket, leading to protests that were part frustration, part carnival. Gotabaya Rajapaksa, he decided to jet off on a sudden world tour. Talk about ghosting a country, must be an advanced level of hide and seek. Now, with protests erupting and leaders fleeing, the country is like a home in disarray, waiting for a chance to rebuild and rise again. In conclusion, Sri Lanka's economic crisis is more than just numbers and policies. It's a sitcom with a serious plot twist. The resilience and struggles of its people take center stage. Regardless of the setbacks and uncertainties, Sri Lankan citizens have an opportunity to build on this moment and create a new vision for their country. The road to recovery has begun, but it's like watching a series of multiple cliffhangers. Will this paradise island rise back to its former glory? Only time will tell. And spoiler alert, it's a suspenseful ride.